Hello and welcome to How to Stay Married So Far. If you're watching on YouTube, you can also listen to us on podcast, where we have two other podcasts, actually. We
have Coffee Moaning.
Oh, yeah.
How to Stay Married So Far.
Which we're doing.
Agony, Aunt and Uncle. And the Popcorn Junkies movie reviews.
Three more. Well, 3 more plus this one. Oh, my God. Stand us in a room, right? In a white room with nothing to argue about. We'll find something to argue about.
I wasn't arguing.
Which leads me... We were.
I wasn't.
Which leads me seamlessly onto our topic for the day.
Oh, how lovely.
So, we have, full disclosure, though we get on brilliantly, though we love each other very much, though we're always going to be together, we have some real sticking points in our marriage, like all marriages do. So we've been to couples counsellors a couple of times before through our marriage, and we've been trying to employ the services of a marriage guidance counsellor again. And the ones that we like, because it is weird, you look at them, don't you, and you go, oh, God, no. We got to the point where I was going, no, I know what the smell of the house will be like.
I can smell mung beans really quickly.
I just can't do it. Or if they're just a bit too, like, oh, yeah, you know, or a bit too...
I look at them and sometimes think,
difficult.
if I can't imagine them slapping someone's bottom in lovemaking...
Why do you always have to be so bloody
well, then they're not going to be worldly wise, are they?
It's a fucking miracle you've made it. I'm not joking, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted by this marriage.
God, that was a deflation.
But I also love it. Yeah. But that is marriage. And I sometimes get worried when people say, oh, couple goals, oh, da-da-da. Because, yeah, we have got a good marriage, but I never want people to think that it's just all like... Well, I don't think anyone that watches Coffee Moaning regularly would. All week, people have been saying to us, I don't think they're going to make it to 22 years.
Have they?
Yeah, they keep going. You missed the comments that say, well, then, because we were 21 years married last Friday.
I don't think we were going to make it to 21 when we were 21 years married.
So I think it's very interesting that on our 21st year of being married, we are trying to get a couples counsellor again, and we haven't been successful. We're on waiting lists for people that we didn't think their house smelt.
Right.
Trouble is, now, you see, we're both so obsessed, aren't we, with the on-screen psychotherapists. Like the Married First Sight UK guy. Oh, my God, he's so lovely.
Yeah, he'd be good.
And then the Australian one, I wouldn't mind going with him over Zoom.
All right, darling, that's easy.
That's what I want. I want that level. Maybe we could try. Anyway, we digress. So we were just talking about what is it that couples counsellors do. And we've spoken often about this, either on here or on Coffee Moaning. And we went to the very first couples counsellor we went to. Do you remember the exercise she gave us? So we thought we would do that again today.
Which was?
Well, you say, because it was for ages. I mean, I could have said, but I didn't.
Hang on, we're not going to have it. Doesn't stop
I didn't want you to feel like a warm prop. Well, that's what you just said. Oh, I'm starting like a warm prop.
Oh, my God. Here, case in point. Jumping the gun, thinking you know what's being thought. All that kind of stuff. Writing the narrative.
Don't, Mark, that is cheating. Don't think you're going to cheat your way through this podcast.
That is cheating. Okay, so
explain to them why that's cheating.
What was the strategy? Because that's what she says to me.
Okay.
The strategy offered to us was speak for 2 minutes. Each of you alternately speak for 2 minutes without interruption. And when it goes over to the next person, when the second person comes in to speak, it's up to them whether they reference something that was said in the previous person's 2 minutes or not. You can completely ignore it if you need to or want to. So there's no rules to what you need to talk about in those 2 minutes.
Because what the thinking behind that is that reason why so many people's relationships break down, why communication ends, is because people stop actually listening to each other, which is kind of strange that part of the rule is, and I never really liked that part of the rule, where you didn't have to answer the person. You could just go off and say,
I've never really understood that. It's a similar thing in AA and 12-step recovery meetings, is you're not supposed to do something which is called cross-share. And I find that frustrating because actually, that's the whole point of being a human, isn't it? Only connect. Sorry, I've got it. We
both got it.
I didn't suddenly have a strange turn. Do you know what I mean? For me, that's part of it.
When we were given this exercise by marriage guidance counsellor, we never actually did that. We didn't do that thing once, did we? Where we would just talk about something we wanted to talk about, not in relation to what. So we've never done that. But it is something that you can do. I think we would find that very frustrating because I think, for me, for you as well, if you were saying something that you were really feeling and then it came to me and said, well, I've always dreamed of hot air ballooning, well, where's that going to get us? And anyway, you can pretend you're listening if the other person, you don't have to answer.
And also, I think if someone's saying something which kind of feels like it needs some kind of acknowledgement, or you want to feel that someone's heard you, the ability of the other person to just cut across it and say nothing.
But I suppose a good thing to do.
Classic ADHD is trying to challenge the rules of the advice that was given us.
But here's another suggestion on that we say if today we talk about two things of contention that we each have with each other that we don't think we're communicating well on, and then we both do something smaller, lighter, that we just like to say that doesn't need a reply. I think that's the way to think about it.
Okay.
Like, I've always wanted a hot air balloon, but I've never said it to you because you might think I'm stupid, kind of thing.
Right.
Don't anyone think I want a hot air balloon, because I couldn't think of anything worse, but I'm using that as an example.
Okay,
so the only thing is, we've already made a terrible mistake.
Which is what?
We haven't got a timer.
I was going to say, it needs to be like a game of chess. You know, when you do your movie.
Yeah. And actually, it doesn't have to be 2 minutes. She suggested 5 minutes or 1 minute, whatever. And the first time we did it, I think we didn't last longer than 30 seconds.
Story of my life. It's really hard. I find it really quite stressful when you've got such a tight time constraint, because
but maybe that's a good thing. Maybe in relationships, we all want to cram too much into what we're saying. So. Yeah. And maybe that's part of the exercise, is just to narrow it down a bit.
I mean, one of the biggest mistakes I make in rows is I try and answer everything, say, in a text, and then the whole text gets deleted and all that articulacy is just gone.
I delete immediately.
God.
But I think that... Yeah.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. So it's basically, the title of this podcast is what we need: couples counselling. So we're going to do it.
We're on the waiting list. But another thing that they will say to you as well is, try not to use accusatory tones.
The table.
Don't use accusatory tones. So don't say, you always do this to me, or you make me feel this way, because what you're trying to do is break that stuff down so that you can actually hear what the other person's saying. And the other reason for just giving this time thing is that often we'll jump in, won't we? Everybody does. You jump in when you feel like there's an attack because you want to get back at that attack first. So that's another reason why you have to be totally silent. So
just before we crack on, we are looking for couples counselling. I think a lot of people think that, but just by saying we're wanting to go to couples counselling, that we're in a perilous parlous state of near catastrophe.
Well, that's what I said at the beginning. We like each other, we love each other, we're going to stay together forever, but there's some things that we're not communicating properly on. I did caveat.
No, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because even as you said it, I thought, fuck, we're over.
Well, that's a big problem between us, isn't it? You always think everything means we're over.
And also, at the end, yeah, I guess so. Okay, all right. Well, how are we going to do this?
Do we want 2 minutes or 3 minutes?
Well, how are we going to do this?
Timer on your
I'm going to have to get time. Excuse me.
I'm looking over here.
Can you sort of talk for a bit?
I think 3 minutes would be a good idea.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
Right.
But you don't. Okay, let's make.
I've got a stopwatch.
Let's make it 4 minutes, but you don't have to fill.
4.
But you don't. No, but the important thing is you don't have to fill that 4 minutes.
Okay.
That's the important thing. If you said it in 1 minute, that's totally fine. But nobody must interrupt before 4 minutes. So, guys, honestly, if you know,
maximum of 4 minutes.
Bear with us on this, and if you're finding it really difficult to communicate with your partner, this really might be something that could work for you. Now, this podcast could seriously go tits up.
I was just about to say, I feel really anxious because I've got this funny feeling at the end of this. It's gonna be one of those snow screen situations where the cameras go over and you'll storm in out. And
like when we talked about feeding the dogs.
Don't even
was so
go
bad.
there.
We couldn't come back
but
to the table.
One of the things I want to talk about is actually about something not closely related to that, not dogs, but smashing things up. Okay, So shall we start? Do you want to start? Let's start. I'm gonna hit start. So maximum 4 minutes, but you can stop earlier. So it's a little bit like a game of chess. I'm enjoying this. I like the stopwatch side of it. I don't like all the rest of it. You ready?
I need to be able to see the timer. Are you going to start?
Can you see that?
Yeah.
Oh,
What?
it's out of the wall. I'm gonna have to.
Well, it's not my fault. Now, but this is a classic marriage thing, isn't it? It's, oh, well, now it's pulled out the wall. Like, but what he's actually saying is that's your fault because you need to see the timer.
Yeah, it is a bit annoying.
Why don't you move the table?
Oh, God.
We are in our kitchen.
Everything's going to shake around.
We are in our kitchen.
So sorry, everyone, for... Oh, no. Oh, this is a disaster. We should have thought of this beforehand. Right, I'm going to have to lift you up. Oh, God. There we go.
I was going to try and talk and fill there, but you've just got to keep doing... Okay, we're going to have to stop and start again, Mark. Let's just stop and start again.
We're going to have to... No, it's fine.
Okay.
Just move the table.
That's what I said. I said move the table.
We try not to edit, but now I'm wishing we did.
We never edit these podcasts because we
I'm
want
sure they're thinking, why the fucking hell
Oh
not?
my God, do you know what I'd love to do? Is just say one sentence without you talking over me, Mark. I've tried to fill the time, and every time you're talking, you... Really frustrating. I think you need to watch that back.
I've just had a shave.
Right. Jesus Christ, this isn't... Right. Another bit of advice that a marriage guidance counsellor would give is trying to find a calm space before you go into this kind of a discussion, which obviously hasn't happened.
Is anyone else as stressed as I am? Okay.
So you're starting.
No, hang on. I'm all over the place. I've been doing plugs. I've been doing all sorts of things. No, I don't know. I haven't got my thoughts.
Okay, so I love the way that we've shown you exactly how not to do this.
Don't be recording a podcast when you do it, basically.
I love the fact
You'll be
that
fine.
I've been doing plugs.
Well, it's annoying, and I'm out. Yeah, it's annoyed me, and I don't want to say something horrible to you just because I'm annoyed with plugs. Yeah.
Okay, go on.
God, we're 12 minutes in, and all we've talked about is nonsense. And you're off.
Okay, so I'm going to start with a lighter topic and then move into a heavier topic. And you've already gone, oh Christ. Right, okay, so wow, we just got a perfect example of my later topic, what happened there. Okay, so a lighter topic is, I don't even know how to bring this up because it's become such a big thing. Oh, I'm just going to have to pause here, Mark. You doing faces and making groans. Is you interrupting me?
We are looking at each other.
No, but you can't go,
Okay,
that was
all right.
you
Sorry.
speaking.
No, I'm just preparing myself.
Start the clock. Because now I've not had a minute free now. Start the clock again. Right, just to clarify, guys, you do not go, because that is the exact problem. Okay, I'm going to have to go to the heavier topic first because you keep giving me the heavier topic first.
Okay, let's start.
Right.
Hang on.
Okay.
And
Okay, so I'm going to go to one of the heavier topics first because this has been a problem in our marriage all the way through our marriage, and you just demonstrated it twice without even having the power of speech. You used your body, you used groans, you used grunts. Don't laugh, this is serious, Mark. I hope you know what's coming. Okay. On a serious note, I understand why you panic when a serious topic is coming up because of your insecurities that we understand very well where they come from a, difficult childhood and, other things. Over the years, because I used to just bring up topics, I would just bring them up, say, and that never worked because you felt bombed or you felt like, what's it called when people come in from the side swiped. I can't think of what the saying is now. Blindsided. So for many years in our relationship, you always would say you'd feel blindsided if I brought something up. So then I devised this thing where I would think about these things. I've thought about these things. I'm not going to just like suddenly bring up a topic because you don't like things to happen suddenly. You hate it. You hate surprises. You hate to be blindsided, all this sort of stuff. So I now, and have done this for years, when there's something I really want to talk to you about, I say to you, there's something I want to talk to you about, to preempt it, so you're not just suddenly thrown into talking about something. And every single time I do that, you react as if you've just been told we've got 2 minutes until the next nuclear bomb. Right? Oh my God, Jesus, why do you have to do? Oh no, what is it? Okay, right, okay, just come on then, what is it? It lays the worst ground for them to have a conversation. So I'm trying to be a grown-up, but I'm no good at being a grown-up. I know that I have I have that incendiary device thing living inside my soul, and then I go into this alert sort of place. And I also go into a really resentful place immediately. So we're going into a conversation now where I'm like resentful because you always say to me, I wish you would tell me about things before they build up so that we could talk about them. You've always said that, because what would happen with me is I'd always keep stuff inside, then I'd blow like a maniac. And then I always feel, well, he doesn't really mean that. He doesn't really want to hear what I've got to say in a sane way. And so our conversation always starts off on the wrong foot. So this isn't about me wanting for you to justify that or whatever. I just want you to tell me, what is the best way to approach something with you that I want to talk about? Because we don't need to go into the ins and outs of like how wrong you are and how right. It's just like, what is the best way when I want to like have a moment where there's something serious I want to talk to you about? What is the best way to do it? Does it work better if I were to text you first and say, can we set aside some time to talk about this? Because I think we're going badly into that phase again.
So do I now stop and reset
Yes.
and start?
Well, you could just add another 4 minutes to 4,
No,
which
but
means 8 minutes.
then I'd lose a vital 5 seconds when I right at the front there.
Well, I lost the whole last 20 because you were going like this with the time.
I was listening.
You weren't. You were looking at the time the whole time.
Okay, all right.
God, how long is that waiting list? How long is the waiting list?
We're doing well. How long is the waiting list?
Yeah, with the couples counsellor.
Can I go?
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously, in terms of this 4 minutes, I wanted to talk about hot air ballooning, but you've asked me a question. I hear you. I recognise what you're saying. I don't, I think it's really important for me to sometimes, I think I often make the mistake of not fully saying how much I understand what you mean when you say certain stuff. Because I know I think you end up sort of seeing my behaviour and thinking, he hasn't heard me, he hasn't thought about what I said, and I often have, and it is in terms of, because I'm only talking about this because you've mentioned this in terms of, this is my behaviour in terms of how I respond to you wanting to talk about a big subject. I'm trying to think of what sort of big subjects there might be. I mean, whether it be about, I don't know what. Anyway, but whatever that subject is, I do think, and I hear you, and I'm not sorry. That's because I don't want to. But I hear that it's become a struggle and it's difficult, and you don't know how to best tackle something. I think hitting me suddenly with anything is never going to work. It's never going to work. I mean, I'm seeing a therapist, and it's just never going to work, because the sense of incoming sudden change is something that has rattled me from a very young age. And so I do need some kind of preparation for anything that's big. I mean, I'm trying to think what that big thing, what an example of that is, but I know we hit these moments a lot in our relationship, because you could argue almost everything for me is too big. But I would say that, yeah, maybe texting me ahead is a good idea. I think, you know, one of the problems that happens a lot is that when an argument develops and and one of the threads that's fed into that argument is the drip of something you feel you've been negotiating. I think it's a classic thing, and we've talked about this before, because I have been unaware of, not all times, I've been aware of some of them, but perhaps I haven't been aware of the amount of drip effects it's had on you. So I'm not as up to speed with how fucking exasperated you are about something. It comes as quite a shock when I see the sudden reservoir of emotion that comes with that. It's like, whoa, okay, I'm assigning it to the last moment rather than assigning it to the series of everything that's gone along. So I think if there are big conversations to be had, just to say, but not in a text which says, I mean, there's nothing worse than like when you text, you say, call ASAP. It's like, what the fuck? It's like everything you do and every correspondence you have and every phone call you take, every conversation you have is dramatic and actually incredibly jangly. I find almost your very essence in how you, not in having fun, but how you deal with dilemmas, crises, news is very dramatic. And I'm not saying I'm not, but I think we've fallen into a habit of thinking it's just me that makes that. It's not just me. You know, you can come off a phone call, and when you come off a phone call, we could be facing a disaster with a member of the family, or we could be facing, I don't know, Kay's twisted her ankle. And it's hard sometimes to live around that because I find it unsettling. And so I think, yes, you know, when it comes to sort of broaching big subjects with me, I think it's better to kind of just drop a text and say, look, I think we should have a chat about something. Or I'd like to have a moment where we can have a chat, but not like tomorrow, not like in a week, but like relatively close to that. So I've got enough time to just go, okay, suck it in. Let's sit down and talk. 4 minutes. Let me reset.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to ask you a question. I was just thinking about
Oh, flipping it, governor. I thought we were doing so well.
I don't think I'm allowed to ask a question because it's not fair.
Stressful, guys.
Because it's not fair. If you think about it, I've taken your phone.
Well, I did. I felt I wanted to talk about air ballooning. You gobbled up my
I think
thing.
that might be a mistake, guys. So sorry, I don't think you can do that. I think because I think the
was my 4
person
minutes.
chooses to answer the question or not. No, it genuinely was a mistake.
I know.
So you can take your 4 minutes now if you want.
Oh, I get it. Fantastic. So, well, I feel.
But can I just say?
Hang on. This is very funny. This could become the new format for this podcast.
But I was just going to say to Mark that that was actually, I think why asking a question isn't a good idea is because it was very frustrating. So for me, because...
It was quite frustrating for me too.
Because you didn't answer the question. You spent a lot of time asking what is the big thing. So it was very frustrating because I was thinking he's doing that very thing, which is he just keeps saying, what's this big thing?
Hang on, I've got a solution.
I wasn't listening to you.
I've got a solution. Have your 4 minutes, starting now.
No, hang on, I don't know what I'm doing.
What are you talking about?
No, stop.
Oh.
I don't know what you're doing.
Well, I was saying because you would want to...
just suddenly go have your 4 minutes.
Well, no, because you were talking and I thought you may as well take this moment. I was being kind. I was saying,
No, because now it's turning into an argument. This isn't working.
I'm not having an argument.
No, because now I've got to say again what was wrong with what you said, and that's not right.
No, I hear what you're saying. So shall I now go? Do you want me to now go? Or do you want to go?
Well, the difficult thing is that I'm wanting to answer what you said.
Yeah, well, it would then go to you. It was my choice. It was my choice to answer your question or not. I chose to answer it. So that's why 4 minutes.
You answered it.
Well, yeah. Okay, but my 4 minutes was dictated by what you said, which is fair enough. That's kind of how it goes, and I chose to go with it. I could have gone off on a tangent within
Okay.
it, but I didn't.
So am I? So am I supposed to ask a different?
It's not about. There's no supposes.
Am I supposed to talk about something different now?
Toffee just yawned and sighed with exasperation. That's that dog.
But it's probably nobody left listening.
I think just have your 4 minutes and see where it goes.
But am I doing my next topic?
No, I don't think. I think. Let's think more organically here. Let's think.
Okay.
You're going to have your topics. They might come
Maybe
up in
it's
this
just one topic.
It might come up in the next 4 minutes. Okay, so and go.
Okay, I think where I went wrong with what I was trying to communicate, and this is why we do need a couples counsellor.
Oh God!
This
I was hoping this might sort it
you're
out.
not supposed to talk.
Oh God! I'm so sorry.
Start it again.
I'm sorry.
Fucking hell! This.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Anne.
Right. When you were answering just then, I was like, this is why we need a couples counsellor so badly. And I know it's you that got in contact with the couples counsellor, and I don't know where we are on the waiting list. The reason is because I could tell from the way that you answered me, you had no understanding of what I was saying. And that was partly because I hadn't communicated properly to you what I was wanting to say, and also because we've fallen into that pattern that everybody does in a marriage where you're just assuming stuff. So you went straight into asking over and over again the question out loud to yourself, what's the big thing? I'm trying to think what the big, which is so indicative of why it's become so difficult for me to talk to you, because of your high anxiety levels that you have just in life all the time. So it could be something like, Mark, I really want to talk to you, and you'll jump in and go, oh my God, what is it? And it could be about, I really, really, really want to put together our bedside tables for our bedroom because they've been there for 18 months in the box in the corridor. And you will literally gather everything about life and you'll go, I'm busy. And it's like, I know that, and I know that you're a workaholic, and I know you never stop working. But where are these moments to just have these moments? Like I have a real problem opening the fucking roof. And though this might sound like a really silly thing to anyone listening, but I'm really frustrated with the pile of stuff that's been on the landing for so long that I want to put in the roof. And sometimes it feels to me almost like I'm so frightened of that loft door cracking my head open. And I'm like, why don't I just do it? What is this weird power struggle that we're in, that I'm constantly asking you to open the roof and you won't open the roof yet because you're waiting for something else and something else, something else. And it's these little things where our communication has broken down so much that if I ask anything, it becomes a huge problem. So it wasn't really so much about when I want to talk to you about huge problems. It's like when I want to talk to you about anything, these days, it seems to just break down so quickly, the communication. You know, like the chest of drawers. It's like it's become so, I've done this and I've done that, and now you want me to do the chest of drawers. And it's just, when you say it out loud, it sounds so ridiculous. But I really believe that in a marriage, the things that sound ridiculous, that people eventually stop saying to each other, are the things that wear down a relationship. And you will have as many of those about me as I have about you, but we've lost the ability to communicate those things, to make deals. We don't make deals. It's like last week we tried to, we went, okay, on Sunday and Saturday, the skip will be filled, this will be done, that'll be done. And then it all just like dissipates, and then something else is done, and then we feel resentful, and then it blows up. And the domesticity, I don't think sometimes we're grateful enough for how few rows we have about domesticity. We don't do the washing up row, we don't do the piles of washing row, we don't do any of that. But the things that we don't get done frustrate us both so much. And you feel like I'm being controlling by asking, and I feel like you're being controlling by not doing them and not in any way sort of hearing how mad it all is. For those that were listening on podcast, Mark was very good there. He didn't make any grunts. But he did a lot of moving back, moving forward.
No, hang on a minute. You laughed during mine. You scoffed.
I did.
You did. You check it back, didn't she? She scoffed. I made a note of that. I thought, yeah, pot, kettle black. Okay, I'm starting. Okay, well, this is interesting because actually everything you just said there really clarifies an awful lot, and it just shows you how that first 4 minutes, there wasn't enough detail. Before I get on to some of the things that I'd like to just mention, because I hear what you're saying and I acknowledge that, and I think there is grumpy old man syndrome, and I do think I have, on occasions, I tip into that. It's the idea that one is not unable or doesn't have the time to be able to do these things that are important to you and us and the house and that have not been done for ages, which seem, I know you're not suggesting that because they haven't been done, other things haven't been done, but I mean, I think the priorities of what's to do and what could be done and what one is doing are different for different people. And I think we struggle sometimes in aligning the importance to you I mean, for example, the thing around the skip and clearing all that kind of stuff, I moved 2 tons of stuff across. It didn't bother me that you hadn't ordered the skip the day that you were going to order the skip. That just didn't bother me, but we'd cleared the stuff out of the way. That was part of the agreement. Yes, the drawers have started. Yeah, I think that sort of stuff, you're right. I have to in a sense, try not to be so sort of, miserable, dramatic, imbuing it with some huge significance of put uponness. I hear that. And I recognize that in myself, and I don't like it. I think it's something that I have, if I'm honest, I've seen in other men, and it's not something I'm thinking, I've seen that in other men and I want to be like that. I don't like it. I don't like it. I think it's received behaviour. So I apologise. I apologise for that, and I recognise that. I think by the same extension, when I want to talk about, and it might be talk about other stuff that isn't of a sort of domesticity or whatever, I get frustrated that if I flag up, say, something with the business, with what we're doing, with content, with whatever, there's an assumption that I'm always coming at it from a sort of catastrophic perspective, and I'm not. I'm coming from it sometimes and often from either a business perspective or this is something that you wouldn't understandably be thinking about, but this is part of what we do that I'm thinking about, and it's important to me. And I think you sometimes... there's a frustration that I think you sometimes... I sometimes feel characterized as only coming at stuff from a panic-stricken place, and I don't. Sometimes I come at stuff from a sense of, not urgency, but this needs to be thought about. And to think about it isn't to be hysterical, isn't to be paranoid, isn't to be all these kind of things. So, whilst I hear what you're saying, and the examples you've used make total sense, I can feel myself when I'm doing it sometimes, and I think, okay, well, why am I turning something very innocuous, very everyday into something that's a huge comment on me? Why do I mushroom an otherwise relatively ordinary, everyday request or issue or disagreement even, and then turn it into something that's much, much bigger? I hear that. I hear that I do that, and I really want to work hard at not doing that. So, I mean, in a weird way, just having this conversation means I have to articulate that. But it's kind of interesting because I think in a very different way, I sort of feel something similar, and I'm running out of time. But I just wish I wasn't. Whilst I recognise I often respond to stuff in this way of it's a comment on my character, I wish that everything I ask of us or the situation wasn't seen as some kind of symptom of my defects all the time.
Well, first of all...
So hang on. Let me just restart. I love a stopwatch. Reset and start.
Well, first of all, for people listening...
God, so stressful.
Why that...
Sorry.
Every time.
Sorry,
first
sorry.
10,
So sorry.
15 seconds
Sorry.
you're talking. So first of all, for anyone listening, why that worked was... What are apologies? You don't need apologies between people when we haven't got major things going on. the acknowledgement, the fact that Mark just acknowledged that he does do grumpy old man is huge. I immediately felt less stressed, because even if nothing changes for a while, the fact when somebody else acknowledges something and says to you, I see that, that's enormously powerful and this is why this technique can work in marriage guidance, because often we just want to feel that we're heard, even if it then doesn't necessarily mean springing into action. So that's first of all. On the point about you always feeling that every time you say something to me, I feel it's coming from a catastrophic negative place. I think that's another perfect example where our communication has got fucked, where we're both coming to the party whenever we want to talk to each other with our narrative already in place. I will think, oh my God, Mark's going to say everything. We need to do this because everything else has been shit, and because it's really like he's going to deliver this like the worst thing ever. I'm a naturally wake up in the morning, feel quite positive. You are quite right, let's work out everything that we have to sort of protect ourselves from today. That's quite a difference in styles. So I come to everything thinking, okay, brace yourself, because this is going to be pitched in a really negative way. And you come to the party thinking, God, whatever I say, Nadia could flip out at me. And I recognize that, because I do flip out. I've got a terrible flipper outer side to my character. I've got a terrible temper. And so I think what's happened with that is we are repeating behaviours, which for a long while we weren't doing so much. But I think because we're both coming with the story already written. Like, you have a certain look and trepidation when you want to bring something up with me, which makes me feel a bit like weird and a bit icky. And then you feel icky and so again, we're on the wrong foot. We start on the wrong foot, and it's annoying because we are two brilliant communicators. We are so able to communicate. But at the moment, we're both stubborn, we're both Scorpio, we both have ADHD, we both want to buck against any kind of authority. So go back to me, keep asking about the loft, that feels to you like an authority. So you saying to me in any sort of way that feels like you're my boss, that's a kind of authority. So we go into fight and flight mode. So what we need to do, and this is what we are hoping from the couples counsellor, is to find a new way of communicating. But the problem with us trying to do this at home by ourselves is we don't stick to anything. We could sit here and we could come up with an absolute plan of how the next time we're going to talk, and we won't do it because we're not accountable to anyone for anything. Nobody. We're our own bosses. We're self-employed. We don't answer to anyone or anything. And so we have no accountability. We don't really strike deals with each other. We kind of decide, and we mean it at the time that we say it, but then we kind of also know it's all going to piss in the wind at some point. And I think we've clarified today what's going on.
Right. Are we carrying on? Is that you one, me one? I think I've got one more, haven't I?
But do you want to do something other than this communicate? Do you want to do something?
I just want to just out of the time constraint. I think everything we've just said there, I agree with. I think, you say we're not accountable, we're not answerable. I'm not sitting here thinking this is instead of couples counselling. I'm not an idiot.
No, I wasn't saying that either. I'm just saying it's really interesting what's come up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of if we were seeing a couples counsellor, our answerability, if you like, would be to have to go back and say, classic question, how has your week been? And how's it gone? And all that kind of stuff. And you go, I made a mistake. And I made a huge row. Okay. Let me just do one. I just want to do one final one off the back of that. And then we've had an equal amount of time on the same thing. One of the things I would say about all of this is just this process has put in the center of the table and I am in a place at the moment, for whatever reasons, where I'm really wanting to interrogate and when I say this, I'm not saying I'm doing it successfully, but I want to interrogate why I have responses and reactions to things that I do, why I am a fatalist, why I am easily jangled, why I have this, as I said to my therapist the other day, this constant feeling of like about to be hit by a juggernaut. So all that sort of stuff, I'm trying to understand how that then translates, obviously, into how I am as a father and as a husband and all those kind of things. I think one of the things that sort of I would like help with is, and it does alarm me, is how, and I'm not going to go into the details of it, but like, when we had a row at the weekend, it's like how when we get to a certain point in disagreement now, there is an aspect to your frustration, exasperation, anger, and all of that. I'm saying all of that in terms of, it's not that none of that is justified for you, it's what you're feeling. But that when it comes out, there is no way of controlling it or not even not controlling it, because I'm long enough in the tooth to accept, and I do accept, that anger is part of the equation. You can feel angry, and it's all right to express, as long as you don't hurt anyone. It's all right to express it to some degree. But it worries me sometimes that there are no breaks or buffers that kick in sometimes, and that worries me because of all the things we've just been saying. I'm always looking at things in terms of, well, what's that a sign of? Why is that happening? Why has it got to that? Why is it going this? Why is it going that? This must be the drip of time, and this must be this, and this must be because actually we're hitting, and really, and so. And but there are times in there where I think I don't understand how there is no choice not to hurt. I don't buy it. I don't see it. I don't get it, because I can accept that I'm frustrated, as we're talking about it now. I'm not saying I do when we're having the row, or when I try and stop a row or try and stop the behavior and it still doesn't seem to shift anything. And I get it that there needs to be time, and then I don't understand how the anger or the unadulterated fury, if you like, of a situation can't subside. I just and that alarms me, because it just rings all those bells that are all the worst bells in me, and then it just all falls apart. So that is something that I'd like to talk to a couples counsellor about, because I don't, it's not nice for you. I see that, and it's not nice for me, and I know you don't like feeling like that afterwards, and it's yeah. And then in terms of other stuff, I mean, and we'll get onto something lighter, but yeah, I mean, I feel eggshelly too around you. I feel eggshelly, and I think what sometimes happens is where I feel injustice sometimes, and this is when I say injustice, it's the same injustice that all people feel in relationships. It's not about real injustice. Is that I might be adjusting how I step forward based upon actually how you're presenting to the situation, and not a not particularly friendly way, or this way or that way. And then I get shot down in flames for having tiptoed towards something. And I find that I have a real problem with that. I have a real problem with, hang on a minute, sometimes even I adjust how I step towards you. I'm not the only one who's a bit of a grumpy old man. You can be a grumpy old cow. And if I adjust my step, I sometimes feel I'm the target still, and I'm the cause of adjusting that step, whereas actually I'm just adjusting my step. Well, that was a bit tight, wasn't it, that one? There we go. Wow.
Yeah.
We've been going for ages. Do you think we should stop?
God, do you think it's the most boring podcast?
I don't know if it was useful. I don't know. Oh, God.
I mean, I imagine...
Just sending an email to the couples counsellor.
I imagine what's useful is hearing how you can talk to each other, and also maybe hearing how underneath all of this, there's obviously a lot of frustration between both of us. And, it's always my thing, our thing, whether podcasts or whatever else we do, or Instagram, whatever, to just try and just always be as real as we can be. I'm painfully aware that you could look at us and go, oh, what an amazing life they've got. Well, we do have an amazing life, but nobody has a perfect life. And it's a struggle. Marriage is a struggle. It's hard fucking work, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I wouldn't I wouldn't have wanted my life without this marriage, you know. And when I did my Instagram post, didn't I? And you were like, bloody hell, that was a bit. But it's like, fucking hell, it is hard. So if anyone is really struggling or really wondering whether they should, there's a lot of commitment phobes out there, isn't it? People that might be frightened of the hard work of a relationship. Don't be, because within it, it's a very creative thing to do, to be constantly trying to work out a more peaceful way to be within yourself and with another person. It's a non-stop education. That's what it is.
Part of me thinks, depending on how long this couple's counselling waiting list is, let me just send another email to them. Get us in! No, making a commitment to doing this perhaps could help in the interim, because it has made me stop and think and listen differently to what you had to say. I think it'd be nice if next time maybe I could lead with something, because I think that's kind of that's very much dictated what we've talked about, which is good, and it's
Can
made
I
me
just
reflect.
pause you there and say, can you start? And you went, absolutely no way, I am not starting.
No, I wasn't saying it like that.
No, but when
No,
you
no,
just
no.
said, maybe it'd be nice if
No,
I
but I
did it
wasn't
next
meaning
time.
it. No, but
But
I
it was
didn't-
but
well, there you
the
go, but I wasn't saying it like
the
that.
tone was like, it wasn't fair on you because I started.
I wasn't saying it like
That's
that.
how it
at all.
sounded.
I wasn't saying it like that at all. I think there are so many. I mean, there's also this other strange idea that you go to a couples counsellor, they wave a magic wand, and it's all sorted.
no,
it's absolute
it's not.
bollocks. It's not.
You get fragments.
It's horrendous. You get shards of kind of bits and bobs and what have you. Yeah, and I've got myself slightly locked into, if we need to see a couples counsellor, then things are really bad because we're 21 years married.
Why?
and
When
we're
we've
going
never,
bad.
when we've always said
No,
the
but isn't
opposite.
it interesting that? No, yeah, but isn't it interesting that I'm thinking that? I'm saying, you want honest? I'm being honest. That's what it makes me feel, and I feel a sense of failure, and I feel those things. If I'm feeling those things, and it's what I'm feeling, I'm not saying I shouldn't challenge myself about those, and I'm not saying that they're right. But isn't it interesting that I'm thinking those things too?
But But that for me will be such a big point of discussion with a counsellor, is that everything that you were such a perfectionist that there's no room for any wobble, and that's. Being a perfectionist is the hardest route to choose in life, because all the perfectionists I know have a stick ready to beat themselves with all the time. There is no such thing as perfection, only excellence. And even excellence is almost impossible.
Yeah, and by the same extension, it's really important you don't get a couples counselling just to get what you think you want resolved, because I've done that with a partner in the past, and they couldn't believe that actually, it's both people in there's responsibility, both people are creating the problem.
Absolutely.
This is not about going there to get the answers you want or you need. And I suppose because it's something that we're talking about, I'm sort of trying to think, well, what do I want to ask of a couple? I suppose one thing I do want to stop is the speed with which I can see you get cross. Just then, it's the speed. It's the speed. It's just like bloody hell.
And for me, it's like, because I hate it when I lose my temper. I really, really hate it. But why I want to have a counsellor is like what I said right at the beginning, is because we are great communicators, but we've lost our way with some fundamentals, in that we're both not articulating in the right way for the other one to understand. Like, I see your frustration with me, you see my frustration with you, and yet we're not able to come up with any deals.
It's weird. It feels like we don't want to. That's the bit that worries me.
I do.
Well, no, I disagree.
I want to.
No. I know. Of course, I know we
I
both
don't know what
do.
you mean when you say that.
I feel like, well, and this is something that we need to discuss. It feels sometimes like it's the communication you want is the communication you want, whereas the communication that maybe I want or
That's a ridiculous thing to say. Communication is about two people.
Yeah, of course it is.
What is the definition of communication?
No, but I mean,
No. What is the definition of communication? I want better communication between the two of us. And you've gone, well, just having your own communication.
I didn't say it like that.
You did.
That's one of the other things that we need to talk about.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here you go. You see, this is where we're not communicating. I hope that was useful. I thought we were going to get to a more light-hearted kind of subject, like hot air ballooning or something. Do you want a hot air balloon? Have you ever wanted a hot air balloon?
I'm going to put you in a bloody hot air balloon.
Fair dues, that'd be quite nice, actually.
Bye.
Well, there you go, guys. Hopefully that was vaguely useful in some strange way. But I think there is merit in shutting up and letting the other person do. I mean, I can't say any more. I heard a lot of what you said, and I acknowledge it, and I hear it, and I will really think about it and try not to be a grumpy old man and conflate everything into something that's massively significant when it's not. She's gone very quiet for those of you who are listening.
Subscribe and tell people what a weird podcast this was.